Oh, here we are. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling the meeting to order tonight at 6 p.m. I need to read a brief, I just knocked my name off the platform, that's awesome. I'm going to need to read a brief statement. Prior to tonight's meeting, there is a state of emergency currently called by the governor, and it's in accordance with his original declaration of emergency issued on March 4th, 2020. And state and local politicians have imposed or recommended measures for promoting social distancing. So what we have here at the Water District is an essential service. And the California Department of Public Health has told us to wear masks indoors, so that's what we're doing today. And as a side note, we have had a number of positive results for COVID tests, and a significant number of employees are out right now. So that is the reason why the public is having to join us remotely and why we're all masked up. All right, thank you. Director Boyd, would you like to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
My pleasure. Right hand over your heart, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Have any issues?
All right, roll call vote.
President St. Amand,
Present.
Vice President Boyd,
Present.
Director Cordell. Here. Director Griffin,
Here.
Director Ratora.
Here. Okay, posting of agenda declaration.
The agenda for tonight's regular board meeting was posted on Thursday, January 6, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Conflict of interest declaration.
None from Boyd.
Cordell, no.
Rotorua, no.
None from Griffin.
None from St. Amand, although I must say that I am employed by the federal government. However, my opinions expressed tonight are not necessarily those of my employer, nor are they necessarily those of the rest of the board of directors. Okay, now is time for public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time that item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you're recognized by the chairperson, please state your name and address for the record. Do we have any comments from the public?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead. Could you please state your name, Judy?
Yes, this is Judy. I heard that. This is Judy Decker, 625 Ward. I have a concern over the mailings of the letters and forms for the adjudication process. They were sent registered mail, but they were not sent registered mail signed receipt requested. And I am concerned that not everyone, especially those people in the registered mail signed actually received them. For instance, there have been several instances of vandalizing mailboxes, and those people out there that have mailboxes have them on a post at the edge of their property, but some of the properties are 40, 20, 10-acre parcels, And we ourselves have seen mail strewn up and down streets. And since you did not require them to be signed receipt requested, you don't know whether they got delivered to the property owner or not.
Okay, thank you for your question, your comment.
I hope you look into that and have a way of knowing that the property owner actually received them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Dicker. Who else do we have? Anyone else?
Hello. That's Mike now. Can you hear me?
Hi, Mike, yes.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. I have, three things I'd like to address. Start the first one with the decision to close the meeting to the public tonight. I guess, unfortunately, I have to say that the City Council and even the Groundwater Authority has one up to you on this particular one. Their last City Council meeting was open to the public, and the Groundwater Authority meeting is going to apparently be open to the public, which is an important thing. It's much more stifling, as you're all well aware, for the public to have to watch online and call in. The interaction is not anywhere near as complete and communicative. We have to do it this way. And I had a short conversation about this. One of the board members, and apparently it appears, and this may not be the case, you can correct me if need be, that it's most of the staff driving this decision and not the board. And I would suggest that for importance of having meetings like this, and you need to interact with the public, that the board be the one to make the decision. And if there are 3+ members of you on the board there that want to have it open to the public, it should be open to the public. So, and I hope that this will not be the case at next month's meeting. So I feel very, very strongly that we need to be in the room discussing things with you guys. So the other one is the fact that I sent all you guys a graph today. I hope you got it. It didn't seem to come through the first time. I calculated out the percentage of the GA fees versus the water charge on everybody's water bills using the tier rates and the GA fee rates. And for most of the people in town who are probably that large percentage who are in all in Tier 1, they're paying 250% more for their GA fees than they are for the water charge. As you go up in tier, it goes down, but it actually, even if you go up to like 4,500 cubic feet, which is quite a bit of water use for a household, it never actually even goes below not being over 100% of the water charge. So I think that's a good graphic. I hope somehow we find a way to get that out so more eyes in the public can see that and understand what they really are paying as far as percentage-wise. If we had any item of our daily living consumed that we had to pay 250% more for, it wouldn't matter what it was, we'd get really, really upset about that. And I think maybe the public ought to be made aware of this and understand that they do need to be upset about this huge increase in their water that they're being charged. The last one, I guess I'm running out of time, would be quick about it. I was not here for the last GA meeting, unfortunately. Did review it online and heard the disgusting comment towards Mr. Rotorua, and I'll agree with Mr. Nugent, his comment at the last board meeting, that this is just it's indicative of the contagion in the GA and the GA staff. There is little to no respect for the water district in the majority of the GA members and the staff, and you all have to know and be aware that who's really running the city is Keith Lemieux and Ron Strand. They don't even want to give any direction to the representative The guys that are really running the county, is Phil Hall, basically. So their disdain for the water districts have been shown very clearly, and I think it's about time the water district showed that they're really very, very tired of this and started telling them that the major funding, in fact, the only funding agency of the GA, if they could continue being treated this way, is that maybe they're going to decide they don't need to pay their fees, just like Searles Valley is being, doing, saying you're going to put us out of business, so we're not going to pay. To remove the money, the agency then becomes kind of null and void and crippled. And as far as the way they're in general conducting themselves, I think they deserve to be crippled in an effective fashion so that they can't continue going down these kind of roads. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Deal. Christopher, do we have anyone else online? Okay.
Regarding Mr. Neal's first comment, do we know how long this emergency mask thing and not having public is going to go on?
The mask mandate, which was originally set to expire January 15th, has been extended by the governor to February 15th. It's kind of it's ever evolving by day. I mean, we had enough cases last week that by definition, we had an outbreak and had to report that to Kern County Health Department. We have right now about 20% of our people are in quarantine. To Mr. Neal's point, we provide an essential service, not that the city of Ridgecrest is, not to demean them, but I mean, we provide an essential service to people, water. The city, it's their decision to be maskless and have people in. I personally don't think it's prudent for us as an essential service to be open to the public. Our office has been closed since December 15th. As I said, almost daily, we're getting more people having to go tested, and it's so as far as the mask mandate, it's set to expire February 15th. Whether it's extended again, I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to bring the subject up again when we talk about our monthly, our January workshop, but for now, let's go ahead.
Okay, are there any other? All right, very good. So let's move on to item 8, current business and committee reports. So item A, the consent calendar. We have any discussion about the consent calendar? All right, can I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I'll move.
Second.
All right.
President St. Amand,
Aye.
Vice President Boyd,
Aye.
Director Cordell,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Aye.
Director Atora.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, motion passes. Item B, installation of flow reducers on past due customers. Don.
This item first came up, I believe, last summer, and there's a memorandum from Jim Worth's firm that I wanted to refresh your memory of. We have copies for you. We had discussed it, I believe, twice previously, most recently in August or July, and then again just before the moratorium on shutoffs was to expire at the end of September. When the governor extended that moratorium to the end of December, again, we had the discussion at a board meeting and decided to defer further discussion until pending the governor's decision whether or not to extend the moratorium. As of December 31st, the moratorium ended, so we brought that back to the agenda. I guess what we need to do is have the discussion with the board, whether or not you want to pursue that. We talked about it before. It does offer a lifeline, as opposed to right now, if somebody is delinquent on their payment, they're locked off. There's no other option if they don't enter a payment plan. Of course, payment plans are always an option, but a flow restrictor could offer a temporary lifeline to people to give them a little extra time. The memorandum, as you see from Jim's firm, it's legal. It has been used by other water agencies. And so it's up to the board if you want us to pursue that. I guess the direction would be for board to direct staff to develop a policy to bring to the board on how they would be, how the flow restrictors would be applied.
So the moratorium has been ended.
Correct.
The policy, what is the staff's recommendation? That the policy cover future moratoriums on shutoffs or have that flow restrictor folded into current procedures for dealing with customers who are in arrear?
I think the direction we would go, if it's the board's desire, is that we be part of our policy for delinquent payments, but not just for moratoriums, but for delinquent payments as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Don?
This is Chuck. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a couple questions. If the moratorium or the governor's released that on December 31st, so the way I understood the update was that now we will send out the bills that have 30 days to get on a payment plan, and after that they would be disconnected at that point. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, they have to be
Okay.
advised, they have to be advised that they have an option of a payment plan, and they have up to 30 days once they get the notice to arrange for a plan.
Okay. I have one question about the reducer, the flow restrictor, that I've had a concern with, and I'm going to express it here. What would be the district's liability if the residence was a newer residence that had fire sprinklers installed and that house caught on fire and it did not have enough flow to run those fire sprinklers? Because I know it takes quite a bit of water to pass the flow test when you build a new home for the fire hydrant. So if we put a flow reducer on and the sprinklers did not work on a house, where would that leave us?
If I recall, Director Griffin, this question was raised prior, and I believe Mr. Worth had a response for it. Mr. Worth is on the line, I believe.
Yeah, Chuck, this Jim. There's always potential liability with respect to actions of the district, but the way the research looks like, this is a legitimate tool that the district could use for collection. And I guess I would have the same question to you. Would you have the same liability concern for that house that has a new water sprinkler that didn't pay and we cut their water off? I'm not sure we'd have liability there. I don't think our responsibility is to provide water at free cost forever to everybody. So
I would agree with you there. And so that's my question. Would it be better just to turn the water off for non-payment because then we would be justified to do so? I believe that might be better than saying we're going to give you a little bit of water. I'm just worried about what we would be liable for. So that was my concern.
Sure, and I don't know. We haven't seen this. The flow restrictors. We've only seen a couple of instances with it, but I would go back again. I'm not sure that you would have more liability if you put a flow restrictor on versus shutting their water off altogether. To me, the flow restrictor is a lesser restriction on a homeowner. They can at least receive needed water for health and safety concerns and not be cut off. So I can't tell you what the percentages are, but I'm not sure that I'd be. I think the liability concerns would be the same or similar to us cutting water off, which is exactly the process we'd follow. Pretty much the same notice requirements before you shut somebody off. I suspect the policy would look similar to that.
Okay. All right. Well, I anticipate that I think a lot of those past due bills will be getting paid here real quick. So I think that's going to dwindle down. So I'm hoping that.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other board questions or comments?
Yes, I've got a couple.
Director Rotore.
Am I correct that we're basically in arrears or our customers are in arrears by over $300,000? Something like that?
That's correct. I think it's like 323,000. Yeah.
Okay. And was there going to be a time limit put on the restrictor before we go from restrictor to all off?
Well, that would be within the policy that's to be drafted. I can't give you an answer. That we'd have to draft a policy and bring it to the board.
Well, I, for one, think we need to draft up the policy, see what it looks like, bring it back to the board and vote on it.
I concur.
Or any other questions?
I'd be in favor of, giving them some time to set up their payment plan. If that doesn't happen, shut them off.
Well, that could be part of the policy,
Yeah,
right?
that would be my
Okay.
idea to do.
Just as a correction, the actual amount is $315,942.46.
Okay.
It's a lot of money.
And people in Ridgecrest, if they want to be working, they can be working. So there's no shortage of jobs in town.
And I just want to share some of the impacts that the field service crew have expressed to me in that right now shutting off service is about 30 seconds to a minute. Doesn't take too long. They can hang the flyer and then shut it off, and they don't have to deal with the confrontation of an angry homeowner whose water has been shut off. To install the flow reducers essentially entails removing the meter. It's about a 20-minute job to remove it, put it back on, and then sometimes there's impacts to the customer side that has to be repaired. Just something to keep in mind that we're increasing the time substantially. If you have 60 lockoffs, it's going to take you 3 full days to do that with the flow reducer as opposed to a lockoff.
Okay, good to know.
So there is some impact on the staffing side.
I think once we send out the next letter saying what's really gonna happen, I think we'll see a lot of people paying up.
And how many accounts were there?
323, I believe.
323.
Yeah, 323.
All right, I'm going to go out and ask for public comment.
Exactly.
Okay, I see there's no public comment at this time, then I'm going to come back to the board and, oh, we are, stand by.
And we don't need a vote, just a direction to staff.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Hello. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Could you state your name, please?
Yes, this is Mike Neal.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Yes. Okay. I have a comment on this. Thought occurred to me that it may not have struck any of you gentlemen. As you may or may not be aware, the city has been promised about $6 million in what is supposed to be basically COVID relief funding. At this point, all they want to do with it is go improve and repair their parks and add further parks and so forth, and buy I don't know, 6 police cars, I believe, something like that. Now, I pointed out to them that none of that really seems to be targeted to what you would think is COVID relief. In this particular case that you've got with customers that haven't paid, you could probably conjecture that there are a number of them that actually did have financial difficulties from losing jobs and so forth because the business is shutting down and all that we're all well aware of. My suggestion is that you communicate to the city that it really should be their responsibility to go out and make available to people who, in actuality were thrown into hardship by the overall COVID situation, didn't have the money, and that's why they didn't pay their water bills. If they discovered it was something they could get out of and do without having to pay, at least for a time, so they could actually buy food to put on their table, and have the city do what they really ought to be doing with that kind of money, and go do a little legwork and find people that need help with that they could get from that funding to help pay these bills if they honestly weren't able to pay. It might take a little bit of work on the general manager's part or whatever to talk to the city manager and get something like that booted up, but I think there are some people who are going to be deserving of assistance, and that's a large amount of money the city has in its pocket, or going to have in its pockets very soon, and that's the kind of money that should be being spent on those people's behalf, and it's going to, but unfortunately the district in this particular case is, going to have to, kick them in the seat of the pants a little bit and get them to pursue that. So that's a suggestion for you guys to take in on this one. All right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Neal. So I'd like to make a proposal to the board that we ask the staff to put up 2 drafts. One for folding flow restrictors into the regular process for handling customers who are in arrear. I'd like another draft for dealing strictly with moratoriums should they come up in the future. And I'm suggesting 2 drafts because I recognize that there's a significant cost increase for putting the flow restrictors in that might make it impractical for regular operations, but in the case of a moratorium, might become absolutely necessary. Does anybody, any of the board directors object to that?
No,
That sounds good. How about you? You may be on mute,
Chucky,
Mr. Griffin.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
and now,
Oh, okay. I just some clarification, David, if you will, on the moratorium part. If you'll clarify that for me. I'm okay with staff addressing something and looking at a policy, but I guess if you'll explain just a little bit for me, because
Sure. So based on the significant increase in time necessary and exposure to risk from angry homeowners for installing flow reducers, it might be inappropriate cost-wise to have that as part of the regular policy for dealing with people who are in arrear. On the other hand, it is possible that we will face future moratoriums where the governor has informed us that we are not allowed to shut water off to people because of a state of emergency. So in that case, it might well be appropriate to have flow reducers installed on those properties. So I'd like to have a policy for either condition so that the board can consider them both and consider the economic and labor impacts to the staff and make an appropriate decision. Did that answer the question?
yes, it clarified it for me. I would be in agreement with looking at a policy during a governor issued time, but not just on a normal standoff or for a normal shutoff. I think it would be it would just not be cost effective for the district to do it, I don't believe.
Understood. Okay, very good, thank you. So Dawn, I think you have your direction. And we're going to move on then, unless there are other additional comments, to item C, the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. But before we give Director Rotora an opportunity to give his report on the Groundwater Authority, I'd like to make a brief statement regarding the discussion at the City Council meeting on 5 January 2022 regarding the adjudication filed by the Water District. While many of the questions and concerns expressed at the City Council meeting were reasonable, and in some cases not unexpected, many of the answers or opinions provided at the City Council meeting only lead to further misunderstanding not only of the adjudication, but of all the related water issues facing the Indian Wells Valley Basin. We do not intend to address the questions and opinions expressed at the council meeting last week, as the adjudication and related matters will be discussed at the Water District's Special Board Workshop on 19 January at 9 a.m. here at the district office, and at an additional public workshop which is scheduled for 26 January at 6 p.m. at the City Council chambers. At these times, the public will have an opportunity to direct questions and concerns to the Water District attorneys, who will answer and respond, recognizing the limitations with ongoing litigation. With that said, I'd like to briefly comment on a few of the questions and issues that were discussed at the council meeting, as the responses and opinions expressed need some clarification. On the subject of adjudication, the adjudication has been described as Armageddon, largely based on language from the adjudication cross-complaint, which states in part that the court may impose a moratorium on new pumping. While that statement is true, the reference is a quote to the adjudication statute and is required to be in the adjudication by statute. It does not necessarily mean that that is what the court is going to do. So that language should not be mistaken as either the goal or the purpose of the adjudication. Just as a requirement of statute. As multiple council members stated, their responses were based on speculation and more appropriately directed to the water district. We agree, and that is why we're holding the workshops to address the questions and concerns. On the subject of costs, while the adjudication comes with a cost, an overall reliable estimate cannot be provided at this time for the adjudication, as the overall cost will be impacted by other factors. There are presently 5 lawsuits that have been filed, and all are directly or indirectly related to the adjudication, so that can be a factor. The district intends to work with the community and the stakeholders to try to reach agreement and formulate a physical solution approved by all the stakeholders, as opposed to a lengthy and costly trial. In this respect, the district is currently working with the Department of Water Resources to try and secure facilitation services to provide an open forum for the community to identify and discuss the water issues facing the Indian Wells Valley. The Water District believes this may assist in a potential early resolution of the adjudication, thereby reducing costs. Other factors will come into play as well. With regard to de minimis private well owners, there have been many questions regarding how a private well owner will be treated in the adjudication. Although a definitive answer cannot be provided at this time, the district is attempting to facilitate the adjudication process for private well owners and expects to be able to provide additional information on this topic at the board and public workshop later in the month. Lastly, there was also some discussion as to whether the Water District was attempting to acquire any unused allocation from de minimis or private well owners through the adjudication. That is not and has never been the goal of the Water District, and to imply otherwise is a clear misrepresentation. I will repeat that. The Water District is not attempting to acquire anyone's unused allocation. We recommend that any person interested in the adjudication attend the public workshop on 26 January at 6 p.m. in the City Council chambers. A more limited discussion will take place at our board workshop on January 19th at 9 a.m. held here at the district office, subject to COVID restrictions. And with that, I turn this over to you, Director Rotorua.
Thank you. I've divided it up into 3 categories, management, financial, and project, but the no GA meetings have been held since our last meeting on December 13th. The next GA meeting will be held on January 12th. That's this coming Wednesday. There will be no closed session, and the overall agenda appears to be fairly short. Related to management activity, some of this is old news, but maybe our audience is not aware of it. The GA voted to remove the Water District from chairmanship next year. I believe the county will be the lead. GA expects to hear back from DWR regarding the GSP evaluation by January 31st. So they've got basically 3 weeks to send us information back on the evaluation. And that's going to be really interesting. The Water District has applied for facilitation support from DWR. And the next adjudication workshop, as was just stated, will be held on January 26th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. As far as financial activity is concerned, the FY 2020 audit has not been completed, and we are now we are into fiscal 2022. The GA hired a bond counsel, as reported at the last meeting here, to research bonding for the replenishment fee. The next step is to identify bond repayment security. At this point in time, the GA is spending more imported water money on water recycling than on imported water. In the meantime, the City Council is telling the public they are working with the Water District on wastewater recycling. One has to wonder how many of the City Council members actually understand what the GA is doing. In terms of project activities, I'm only going to hit on a couple that, pardon me, I think are most important. The 2021 GA annual report is due to DWR by April 30th of this year. The schedule was discussed at the last December 8th meeting, However, no information was given regarding the actual report, and I personally find that lack of information disturbing. Would like to go over just two highlights from the prior annual reports related to one, overdraft, and two, the total pumping. As background, the water year 2019 report had 4 years of data, and the water year 2020 report had 5 years of data. Ordinarily, the more data, the better. The problem is that in the 2020 report, there were 12 missed readings on the various wells. So 12 out of 41 readings did not happen, and there were substituted estimates for measurements. Just briefly, the water year 2019 report gave an average basin overdraft of less than 6,000 acre feet, and that's 1/4 of the overdraft stated in GSP. The water year 2020 report gave an average basin overdraft of less than 8,000 acre feet, or less than 1/3 of the overdraft stated in the GSP. Both of the reports both reports indicate the GSP overestimated the overdraft. But data gaps and lack of data limit the confidence in the results. And that's why we need water year 2021 data to give confidence in the results coming out of the 2021 report. Talking just a second about the groundwater production, the results from both reports indicate that the GSP yearly pumping projections overestimated pumping by 13,000 acre feet. So we're well under what we thought the pumping was going to be as projected by the GSP. Okay, going on, the transfer of the basin model to the GA is still in process and the status is unclear. The short-term water use draft policy has gone to the PAC for review, and there was some apparent controversy at the PAC. Many members thought the policy was too flexible. They wanted less GA discretion and less case-by-case GA action. The shallow well impact draft program plan will go back to the PAC for review. Basically, the issue that they're seeing is that the PAC members are expressing anyway, is the need for urgency included in the plan. That was the main reason why the original plan was basically rewritten, although apparently there's still a good deal of concern about the urgency. How is the GA going to respond in a timely manner to actually do the well owner some good? And lastly, there was a virtual TAC meeting scheduled for January 6th of 2022. I have no information on what happened, although I've been told that it did happen. I just don't have any information about what did happen. So Don, do you have any idea what went on?
No, I haven't heard anything from Tim Parker about that meeting. Nothing to report.
So that ends the report.
Okay, thank you.
I do have something to add with regard to the Groundwater Authority. When the replenishment fee was implemented by agreement with the Groundwater Authority, we submitted a schedule of payments to the Groundwater Authority with the agreement that at the end of the year, we would square the balance. If we overpaid, we would get a credit. If we underpaid, we would pay the additional amount. So the payment schedule for 2021 was based on 2020 actual production, with the exception of the month of December. Because of timing to submit the payment schedule, we used December of 2019's production data. So for the year, Water District customers, we contributed $4,105,180 to the Groundwater Authority for the replenishment fee. As I reported earlier this year, during the summer in particular, once water usage increased due to evaporative coolers, irrigation, people watering their landscaping, the impact of the fees started hitting people, and we saw a decline in pumping. So as a result of that, at the end of 2021, we ended up pumping less than we had forecasted in the payment schedule. So beginning 2022, we do have a credit of just under $160,000 for the payment schedule, which we've developed a new payment schedule. We're using, once again, 2021 numbers. And I wanted to bring that to your attention. I've made the Groundwater Authority staff aware, in particular RGS, who does the budgeting, that I will be submitting a new payment schedule to them this month. I wanted to inform the board first that we had a new payment schedule. So with the credit, we're looking at paying $3,874,674. And we also I've gotten with Ty and Jason, and we believe we can reduce the amount of the replenishment fee, not a significant amount, but from $1.70 to $1.65.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Stan or Don from the board?
This is Chuck. I have a couple comments. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Dave, President Santamon, I'd like to say thank you for bringing up the meeting about the city first. I listened to that also, and a couple things concerned me, most of what you mentioned. But furthermore, it seems to me, by watching the meeting, and then the public would watch our meeting, that there's confusion between messages from either members of our board or members of the city council. So what I would like to see happen, and I don't know how we can make this happen, but at the 26th meeting, I'm asking what your guys' thoughts are. If we made that some type of a joint meeting for the first hour, to where we had the city council there, we had the board members of the water district, we could have a discussion back and forth, because I, for one, am tired and frustrated of hearing that we're spreading a message that's not correct, and then it takes another month to get that answer back at our meeting, and then they have something to say. So if we could have a joint meeting on the 26th prior to our workshop starting, to where we could, as a board, sit and discuss with the city council, to where if they had a question, we could answer the question. If we have a question, we can answer their question. That way, there is no question anymore, because that's what I hear every meeting. Well, I heard this at a meeting, and then it takes a month for us to get an answer back, and the public's confused. And at this point, I think we need to be as open with everybody as we can, have nothing that's not in the public, and get it out there.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite members of the city council to contact our general manager, Mr. Zadiba, if they have any questions, and if they like, they can contact me as well, so we can short circuit this month-long delay, and maybe we can make better communications in the future. All right. So I'm going to ask for a public comment on Director Vittoria's report. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to speak? I'll give it a few more moments. Okay.
While we're waiting here, I guess I agree that we need to improve the communications. No question about that, as much for us as for the public. But nonetheless, we're looking at the lack of participation in our last meeting on the adjudication on the 14th. And the comments that I've gotten since the mailer went out, I'm expecting a lot of people and a lot of questions at the upcoming 26th meeting, and I wouldn't want to short our ability to answer the questions on the adjudication in terms of having a joint meeting.
Understood.
The idea of a joint meeting, I think, is a good one. I'm not sure that that is the venue, that is the appropriate time.
I agree that maybe we could plan something for a different time. But I understand we have a caller on the line now. Caller, if you please announce your name and city of residence.
Yes, my name's Mike Neal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, let me make some observations on some of the statements that I've heard here, this discussion. And let me just preface it off with just a real frank statement. Evidence from past actions by the city on this issue towards the water district, and their actions on the representatives' actions on the GA board and decisions and actions that have been taken there, showing clearly, at least in my eyes, that the city is bent on doing everything that it can to short-circuit any of the good actions intended by the water district. When you hear these, exaggerated just to the level of silliness kind of statements that were made at the last council meeting, or misleading things that continue to be thrown out, I have to ask you, how long are you going to make yourselves continue to try to trust the city council? They've proven themselves not to be trustworthy on this issue and basically to be adversarial, even though they're apparently, trying to use a tactical war here where they keep you off balance by acting and saying like they want to work with you. But then when they get a chance to take a shot at you in the public eye, that's exactly what they do. Now, some of you, I think all of you actually been around public agencies long enough and seen things going on that you should know that of course most of this is not necessarily just solely the players' individual actions, that these have been orchestrated, in discussions beforehand, that involved in these things, and they intend to cut you off at the knees, as far as I'm concerned. And even though I kind of respect you guys' statements and opinions, and what Mr. Griffin had to say was in the spirit of trying to work together and continue to exhibit trust. I honestly have to say you really ought to think again and think whether what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're seeing done really is going to allow you to continue to try to trust these guys and actually work with them, because I just don't see that. And it's sad, but it appears to be the fact of the matter, and you need to maybe recognize that and then be able to proceed ahead accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you anyway. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. We have another caller on the line. If you could state your name, please, and your city of residence.
Absolutely. Eric Bruin, Mayor, City of Ridgecrest.
Good evening, Mayor Bruin.
Good evening, gentlemen. I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for your discussion and the invitation that you extended. I will make sure that a phone call is made and that if something can be created. I know we have been meeting under the conditions of the Brown Act, and I just felt like maybe some context should be applied, as always, to what we talk about, and that is that all 10 of us live in Ridgecrest and we love this community. Mm-hmm. And I assure you that continues to be the direction we are both trying to take as I try and focus on this for the community. I'm lying in bed with 3 kids here, a 99.6 degree fever, 2 days so far sick at home, and I'm listening to the Water District meeting because I care that much about this community, and I want to acknowledge your request and acknowledge the need of this community to work together. There are people out there who enjoy calling and saying that we are out to hurt each other, and I assure you once again that has never been the case. And I want to go ahead and say on the record, Mr. Rotora, I would listen many times to the video over and over again, and I do apologize. Whoever it was, I guarantee you it does not represent the city or our staff. It was a stupid, stupid thing, and I hope that the person comes up one day and just fesses up to being stupid. At the end of the day, thank you, gentlemen. We'll make sure to see that extension of that invitation, and I look forward to seeing you at the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have anyone else? And I hope you're feeling better soon. Yeah, the fever is not good. All right. Is there any more discussion or any more questions for Director Rotora? Okay, hearing none then, I'd like to move on to item D, General Manager and Staff Update.
Okay, starting with safety record. As of today, Water District employees have worked 254 days since the last recordable injury. The metered production at the wells for the month of December 109,782,600 gallons. That's 336.9 acre feet. And as I've mentioned every month, the number that we report to the State Water Resources Control Board is the metered water through the distribution system or the consumption, and it does include all non-revenue water, which would be anything lost to leaks, any flushing activities or blow-offs. That number, 122,420,375.7 acre feet. We did report these results to the State Water Resources Control Board on January 4th. Consumption for the month was down 8.6% compared to December of 2013. 2013 is the baseline year that's established by the State Water Board prior to the last major drought. As far as the 20% conservation target established by this board in June of 2016, through December, the cumulative result is 22.8%. So we are meeting and exceeding that goal. Compared to previous Decembers, at 2020, 15.1% lower than 2013, 2019, 26.2% lower than 2013, 2018, 10.3% lower, and 2017, 4.6% lower. As you know, December can be a month where we potentially can get some precipitation, so that probably factors into some of these numbers. We also report the residential gallons per capita per day, and for the month of December, that was 96.7. This number does include both indoor and outdoor usage. We had 3 new connections added during the month of December. So for the fiscal year, which began July 1st, we've now had 26 new connections, and those new connections have contributed $157,106 in capital facility fees. Any questions on that portion? As far as public outreach, the January 4th Community Collaborative Meeting occurred as a hybrid meeting, and because of the situation here at the district, I did attend remotely. I shared that our office has been closed to walk-in since December 15th due to the increasing cases of COVID and the number of staff exposures. I also reported on the upcoming key dates, which included tonight's meeting, January 10th regular board meeting, the January 19th board workshop that will include the revised 2020 general plan, the January 26th special board meeting, which is follow-up to the December 14th meeting, providing the public with information on the comprehensive adjudication, and the March 15th case management conference related to the adjudication that will be held in Orange County. I also mentioned that the notices related to the adjudication were being mailed at that time to around 22,000 property owners. Finally, with regard to public outreach, I did submit another general manager's column for publication in the Daily Independent and the News Review. The column was entitled Legislation and Litigation. Moving on, next item is the January 2022 Annual Board Workshop. Any discussion of the draft agenda, which you should have in front of you, I believe.
You're still taking inputs on that up until this Wednesday, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
On the agenda, you're taking inputs until this Wednesday for the public workshop?
Do you have it?
I believe that's what the email said,
We still have
January
an
12th would be the last day to
So,
accept.
Wednesday is the last day, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If we
And
could get any agenda items by Wednesday, then we'll go over it with President St. Armand and finalize the agenda. It has to be put out by Friday, I believe, right?
And I would like to bring up something related to that, but we have 2 workshops a year, and this one is going to be fairly important, as all of them should be. I think we should consider postponing the workshop. If indeed the mask restriction is not relaxed by that time frame. My feeling is it's hard to communicate in this environment, using this venue. If we can't do something to spread the people out so that we can have enough distancing to do the job, my feeling is that we can't conduct business, important business in that mode. or at least I don't think we should be conducting business in this mode. So I would like to consider, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but we can, before the meeting, I would like to see the council, the board come to a consensus about delaying that particular workshop.
I would just comment with regard to spacing, it'd be difficult to space any further than we have because we'll have full staff, full board, and consultants, and with the meeting being video streamed, cameras, microphones are important, and we have to be here to be able to be heard.
I didn't say it would be easy. My feeling is if we're going to have the meeting and we've got important business to conduct, we ought to look at and evaluate the options that we do have and not just look at why we can't do it.
One option might be to have it at the city chambers. They've got more space.
Yeah, that'd be an option.
This is Chuck. My opinion is I also would not like to have the workshop if the public can attend.
Okay, so my concern about waiting until public can attend in person is that I have no confidence there won't be additional emergencies declared so that the workshop would get postponed an unreasonable amount of time. So Don, what's the possibility of acquiring the services of the city council chambers for that particular meeting?
We'll have to inquire what their schedule is, see what options are open.
Who's got the mayor on the phone?
Oh, we did.
I'm not sure if he's still on.
He doesn't have the
He's probably
schedule,
at
I
the
don't think,
end.
sure.
He's not the scheduler.
Anyway,
So if you could check into that for us, I would, if we can't get the city council chambers, I really would be loath to postpone the meeting because I don't have any confidence that
So
we won't wind up having an extended emergency.
the inquiry would be if the council chambers are available for Wednesday, the 19th, during the day.
Yeah, yes.
well, we could move the day from the 19th to the 20th or the 18th what we need to do, I think, is find out what days the council chamber might be available and then see if there's some compatibility with all the board members.
And I'm assuming that the restrictions that we're placing on these facilities aren't going to apply to the city council. But so far they don't, but.
No, they probably require masking
Right.
if we're going to be consistent.
Well, again, I'll say the mandate from the governor was that masks be worn indoors
Mhm.
until February 15th. I can't speak for why the city council is
Nope.
choosing to ignore it, but as far as I'm concerned, if we have the meeting in city council chambers, that still applies.
Mm-hmm. The mask mandate would, but it might allow some people to attend. So let us know what they say about, check into the 19th, let us know what they say. Please and thank you. Okay. Anything else on the board workshop? Okay, let's go on to number 4 then. Well, a 33 update.
That would be me still. Best was on site December 15th to perform the video survey. In the process, the camera became stuck in the well. Camera has not been recovered to this day, and they were not able to retrieve it when removing the pumping unit. The video did appear to show that there's a possible hole in the seal at the top of the liner that was installed that could be allowing the gravel pack to enter. So the plan is to run another video survey on Wednesday for two purposes, to try and verify where that gravel pack could be entering and also to verify where the camera is stuck. So that's the plan right now. And as far as the next item, the post-earthquake Cal OES reimbursement, we're still waiting for payment of the repairs to the C-zone booster roof. That request for reimbursement is $73,410.60. We have requested an update from the financial processing unit, but we haven't received a response yet. I know I jumped ahead. Was there anything on well 33?
Will we be able to fetch out that lost camera?
That is the,
That's the hope?
that's the $64,000 question.
Okay,
But may I ask, to date, we really still don't have any idea where the gravel came from, is that correct?
Well, again, based on the first video survey, it appears that there may be a hole in the seal where the liner was put in, it's sealed into around the casing of the liner. There's a gap where the liner is in the casing.
Oh.
There may be a hole in that seal. And the gravel pack may be sucked in there because the pump is sitting above that.
Okay. So there's still the hope that we can salvage the well and the operation.
Possibly, until we confirm where.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
still gathering data. Okay. Are there any questions remaining on item 4 or item 5? All right, item 6, financial status.
Okay, through December of 2021, we had actual revenues of 8.5 million, which was 488,000 better than our budget. Our expenditures were at 8.97 million, which is 126,000 over budget. But our net came in at a negative 443,000, which is $362,000 better than budget. So we're doing better than budget. Capital expenditures to date, 436,000. Of that, 129,000 is funded through the COP, and we have debt service principal of 555,000.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
I would like to ask, do we currently have a schedule for when we will be receiving our last year's audit?
Yeah, it's on the schedule for the, they'll do the presentation at the February meeting, so it'd be released in the agenda packet.
Okay,
for that
great,
meeting.
thank you.
Okay, very good. Item 7, solar production, please.
So solar, for December, we had an actual savings of 25,612, which was below the guarantee of 33,000. A couple of items of note, the well 34 site and the well 9 and 10 site look low. So we asked NG about that, and we're waiting to hear back and see if there's some issue they had there. It looks like in November they had issue at the well 9 and 10 site with the inverters, so just waiting to hear back from them on that. So savings to date for the fiscal year is 230,191.
Okay, any questions? Very, very good. Item 8, conservation.
For calendar year 2021, we had 131 water waste reports received, 131 contacts made, 12 formal warnings issued, and 4 penalties issued.
All right, any questions on conservation? All right, 9, the SCADA system.
Last Thursday, the district received the current iteration of the SATs, site acceptance tests from ATSI for the final wells of 11, 13, and 35. We're currently reviewing those and making sure all the corrections that we made in the previous iteration are there. If they are and we accept them, they will be added to what's called a program control narrative, which is a large book that explains how the whole operation works. Once that's completed, we'll be able to bring it to the board for final acceptance. I apologize that the project has taken this long, but we are doing our best to make sure the district is getting what they're paying for, and that this works to the optimum capabilities.
Okay. All right, any questions on item 9? All right, item 10, arsenic treatment facilities.
We received a quote today from PureFlow regarding the under drain system, so staff will be reviewing that and seeing how it fits into the CIP budget. And the plants are currently offline for the season.
Okay, very good. Any questions on item 10? Item 11, operations.
For the month of December, there were 11 repairs and 20 replacements. No valves returned, leaving our total for the year at 659. The no-des truck did not run, leaving our total at 8,330,315 gallons saved. And one final note, the bulk station has been offline for a few days due to a component error inside. That component has been replaced today, and it will be it's operational now, and the hydrant will be decommissioned tomorrow morning.
Okay, very good. Any questions on item 11? All right. And we'll move to any questions from the public on the reports. Okay, hearing none, I'd like to go to item 9, board comments and future agenda items. Let's start with Director Griffin, who may be on mute. Nope, we have a comment? Stand by, Chuck. Hello, caller. Please state your name and residence.
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Neal.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for taking this. I'd like to comment on some of the discussion about the upcoming board workshop, and this would also apply to the workshop on the 26th. Just want to be frank and honest here, and you guys are every one of you intelligent persons. If you haven't already seen it, go look to the evidence as to whether the mask that you are now wearing does one single thing to protect either you or any other persons from any form of virus. And you can also, while you're at it, look at the studies that show that, in point of fact, what you're wearing on your face is actually endangering your own health by harboring bacteria, which then you turn around and breathe back into your respiratory system. And yet you're talking like simply because the governor says we have to do this, then we have to do this. Ask yourself, if it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't matter if the governor says we have to do this. And in addition, if this is discouraging public participation in your meetings, then do you really need to do this? Really, should you do this? This is a problem, and it's based in the false narrative that's been foisted on the public for the last 2 years. It's time for the public to see you gentlemen who understand that this is a bunch of BS, which I've been told by at least one of you. It's time for them to see you refuse to put these masks back on and to speak up, to have open and public meetings in every one of your upcoming meetings, and also to have an agenda item on the workshop put on to discuss this issue, and whether you're simply going to follow the impulses of your general manager in this respect, or whether the board's going to actually be the boss and decide about these things. You could easily set a policy that says, on a case-by-case basis, the board is going to decide whether we're going to shut the meetings to the public and whether we're going to require mask wearing or not. That's an easy thing to put on, and should be a simple subject to discuss. I really feel confident there are at least 3 of you on this board who probably agree with what I'm saying. Maybe not, but it needs to be discussed. So I'm strongly requesting an agenda item on the board workshop be put on there to take this up, and let's see you guys amongst yourselves. Let's just see it discussed and worked out. I think the public deserves that. We're being shut out of the meeting tonight, and we very well. I didn't see any promise that if you continue as you are, that we're not going to be shut out on the January 19th or the January 26th meeting. And I think that's not something that should happen. So I think you need to address this one head on, like you have some of these other tough issues. It's really not that hard to figure out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Don.
If I might, I don't believe Mr. Neal has not been able to participate in tonight's meeting. And I also would like to point out that Mr. Neal has no responsibility for the health and safety of 30-some people at the district and providing an essential service for this community. I don't take that responsibility lightly. You may disagree with the actions, but I'm taking actions based on the best information I have on the governor's mandates. I am responsible. If I choose to ignore that, something happens, I'm the one that's responsible, not Mr. Neal. So I would hope that I have the support of the board with taking the actions that I've been taking.
Right. And it's a matter of requirement from the state of California, whether we agree with the masking that is being mandated by the state or not. It's still a requirement. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Neal. Let's move to item 9, board comments and future agenda items. Director Griffin. Okay, well, let's go to Director Vertora, and then maybe Chuck will be able to join us here shortly.
Okay, I would just like to remind the board that DWR is due to evaluate and give us back the results from the GSP evaluation by the 31st of this month. So you can expect to have that input, and I expect it to generate some interest in some topics in the very near future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Director Boyd.
I forgot to ask while you were up, Stan, do we have a date for when the review of the 2021 report is going to start?
Actually, that's one of my questions on Wednesday. Originally, last month, it was stated that it was going to be sent to the TAC. I think on the 16th or the 17th, something like that. And in the briefing material for this coming meeting, it says that it's going to be put on the website at the same time that it's sent to the TAC, which is something that I encouraged them to do. I don't see any need to keep it a secret. I mean, if the TAC's reviewing it, it should be public information. So I'm expecting, based upon comments from the last meeting, that it will be essentially the middle of this month.
Okay, thank you.
I'm hoping so. And I'm going to push for that at the next meeting on Wednesday.
I'm sure you will. Thank you for that.
Is there anything else, Director Boyd?
No, I'm looking forward to the workshop. I hope we can make it happen next week or soon after. I agree. The further we delay, it just gets to be complicated. And I think there are a lot of topics that we need to talk about, adjudications being one of those, and other things. So I'm hoping that the city, and Mayor Bruin, if you're listening in, I hope you can help us influence the availability of those spaces sometimes next week. But to meet the Brown Act requirements, I think we would have to know, if it moves forward in the week, then we'd have to expedite our inputs to you regarding what's on the agenda. So that's my only concern. So if it gets delayed, delaying it to the right was probably better than delaying it to the left. But I guess, can you delay things to the left?
No.
No.
Okay, that's all I have.
Very good.
I just wanted to thank Stan for your truthfulness on all your reports. It's very, very helpful. And I'm 100% sure that you have a handle on it, and you're not representing anything that we shouldn't know about to us. So, and then David, this is your first meeting. You did semi-okay. Should be better on the next one. But other than that, that's all the comments I have.
Well, very good. Thank you, Director Cordell. Your praise is overwhelming. Director Griffin.
Yes, I just wanted to say I apologize for not being there in person. I did get the Rona last week, so I'm feeling good and over it, but did not want to take a chance at infecting anybody, so I did not come tonight. So I hope to see you at the workshop, and hopefully we can work that out at the city to where we can have that and the public can attend. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say thank you to the staff for your precise and succinct reports. So I'm going to close the open session at 7:13 p.m. and we'll open the closed session at 7:24 p.m. Thank you.
You want to go to the other room?
All right, calling open session back into order at 8:45 PM.
Okay, board met with staff and legal. No action was taken, which requires disclosure under the Brown Act.
Very good. Closing open session at 8:45 PM.